and then you can bring that back, and every automation, everything that you have done will be saved. Magic, isn't it? Saving defaults. If you haven't done anything, you will see that the channels are actually loaded empty. For example, let's say we want the EQ to be here always. You can right click, save as default MIDI track. The next time when I insert a new MIDI channel, Ctrl+Shift+T, EQ will be loaded immediately. On top of that, this actually works with the plugins as well. Let's say you always use a low cut here, right click, save as default preset. So next time when I put EQ 8, you will see that it comes exactly that we saved it. Using templates. While we are talking about saving defaults, it's actually very useful to having templates as well. For example, this is my template. I will leave a link below. It will be free to download if you want. I already created all the channels that I need. I have my arrangement channels, I have my reference channels, I have my basic instrument channels, and I have my return channels. On top of that, I even have MIDIs over here, for example, for basic hats, right? Move this around, immediately start producing. Toggling between views. You will often find yourself switching between this MIDI menu and this effects menu. In the default way, you will probably click this part over here, but rather than doing that, you can easily switch between these two menus by using Shift and Tab. This will save you tons of time. Faster way of inserting new channels. If you are right clicking here and insert options over here, you should definitely learn the shortcuts. Ctrl+T for adding audio channel, Ctrl+Shift+T for adding MIDI channel, and Ctrl+Alt+T for adding return channel. It's very useful. Velocity dilemma. If you are producing on the box, you will find yourself oftentimes playing quite a bit with the velocities to give this humanized feel. Easy way to do this one, you can just click B, it will turn this to pen tool, and then you can click on Control, start drawing things the way you want it. Grouping things. In Ableton, you will find yourself group things quite a bit. Control, kick, and Control bass. And if you click Ctrl+G, we have grouped them up. If you want to ungroup things, Ctrl+Shift+G. Another way of grouping things is, for example, your effects. Again, you select both of them, Ctrl+G. You can actually see the chain. Chains are very important, for example, creating parallel chains. Ctrl+Shift+G to ungroup things work here as well. Multiple MIDIs. It is often desirable to edit multiple MIDI clips at the same time. I have this chord progression and I want to edit my plug sounds together with the chords. Just hold on to Control and click this one, and that will make it visible in our MIDI tab. You can change the focus mode on top. Click here, we are focusing on the plugs. If you click right here, we are focusing on the pad sounds. Adding quick access folders to your favorite plugins. This is extremely important if you are using more than one computer. On this left panel here on the places, you can actually create new folders. I have all my plugins folder. If I click here, you will see that it's inside my Google Drive folder, so I can access this folder structure and this plugin structure regardless of which computer that I'm using. Let's say we create a new delay folder, gather all the delays in the same folder, right? Ableton adds this place, and if we add our plugins over here, every time I click delay, I quickly will find it right over here. You can just group them up, put it here, native instrument replica. So next time when I need delay, all I need to do, click here and just put it right here. And here we go, we already have it. You want to copy paste things? Famous way is just Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V. The faster way of doing is actually using the duplicate function, Ctrl+D, immediately duplicate more than once. The same idea also works with channels, duplicates everything. Same idea with the plugins, Ctrl+D. If you want to just duplicate the automation but not the audio itself, you can also select only this area, Ctrl+D, automation but not the audio or MIDI that we have on the channel. And let's say you want to duplicate the audio but not the automation channel, you can activate this arm. If you duplicate this, you will see that the automation doesn't follow our duplication. Soloing and removing. Most of the times you will find yourself wanting to solo a single channel. The default way of doing this is actually clicking the solo button, but you can actually just use S. You will see that it goes automatically into solo. And while we are talking about soloing things, another very important shortcut is actually 0. If you are playing with the samples, let's say I don't want this part of the sample, you can either do it by Ctrl+E by cutting like this, but the better way of doing is actually selecting the area that you want to mute and click on 0. You actually keep the original sample here and you can still edit everything in the meantime. If you are working on the box a lot, you will see that you will be editing the audio and MIDI quite a lot. Preview of what you're editing is very important. Here we have a MIDI channel, and regardless of what I'm clicking over here, it will start from the point actually selected right over here. But let's say you make a new, quickly change something over here and you want to just start from here, but click there and then do Control space. It it will start exactly the point you are pointing with your mouse with creating your own channel strips. This is extremely important if you are using the same plugins over and over again. I do this a lot. For example, here we have one of my favorite compressor, one of my favorite distortion, and of course my favorite EQ, Fab Filter Pro Q3. When I'm working, I want to quickly try around different things. For a saturator, of course it is the saturation. Take an EQ. If you map the gain button over here, you can quickly try different things. The way you do it, select the first one, select the last one by holding the shift, Ctrl G. This will create you a group, and what you need to do, you click on this button and then you just map important buttons over here. High pass filter, I want to control the frequency. For the bell EQ, I want to control the gain. And now we have them over here, right? What you need to do, map band frequency first one, bell gain second one. We can even color code that and repeat the same steps for the other two plugins. By doing so, we have created our own channel strip. Now we can, for example, quickly process the audio. Let's try.
You have a plastic heart. You have a plastic heart.
You can quickly, using only by your ear and your favorite plugin, get the sound you want. If you're enjoying the video up to now, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Inserting spaces. Sometimes you need to add space between different things. Let's say here. Oftentimes what you do is just select everything to create this space in between. You can just select the amount that you want to add and all you need to do, Ctrl I. And this will immediately introduce space over here. Here we go. Utility for the president. If you are finding yourself automating the volume or the panning of the sound, avoid automating them on the mixer pane. Here you can automate the volumes, but in the mixing stage you will see that you cannot control the volume levels easily with the mixing pane. Better way of doing this, putting an utility, you can play with your gains over here and then you will still have the control on the mixer pane, and the same thing with the balance. You can pan right and left, and this won't affect your control on the mix here. The secondary screen. Most of us producers enjoy being a bit nerdy, and many of us has double screens. If you have double screens, what you need to do, click Ctrl Shift and W. It will open you a secondary screen where you can actually control different things. I like to use the second screen as a mixer tool because it's easier to control the gains and overall sound and returns this way. Cleaning up the dead space. If you are working with your own recordings, you will often see that you like the parts of the recording. Ctrl J, maybe you like here, maybe you like there. You'll quickly end up with a recording just goes on and on. There are a lot of empty spaces that you have to move things around manually. There's an easy way. Select everything that you have, click tab, go to the first part, drop it here, and then you take it back, drop it here, and bam, all the dead spaces in between are gone. Returning to defaults. This actually works across different DAWs and different plugins, double clicking things. Let's say you are playing with the gain, you're playing pitch or whatever, double clicking things will return it to the default value. Gain returns back, pitch returns back. The delete button works on the keyboard as well. Saving ideas. Let's say you were working on a new idea, did a lot of automation style, sound design and effects, and got something like this. But it doesn't somehow work on the project that you are currently working. You should save your ideas if you really like them. It will be lifesaver in your future project. We have all these effects and synthesizers. What you need to do, group them up, create another place in your Ableton. I have a folder that's called melodies. All you need to do is basically taking this MIDI file over here and dropping into that folder. Ableton will save the melody, automation, effects, everything all together in a simple preset like this. Crazy good melody from our Mercurial Tones Apes preset pack. And then you can bring that back and every automation, everything that you have done will be saved. Magic, isn't it? Saving your favorite samples. You can actually use the same system that we use for the plugins, but I want to show something else. This is called collections. Best way to use collection is using them as a shortcut to your favorite samples. So for example, let's pick a couple of our favorite samples. I'm going to go to our Mercurial Tone sample pack. Let's say I want to mark my favorite kicks, yellow for this one, and you can click Ctrl R, kicks, pick a couple of different kicks from different sample packs, smooth kicks maybe, from David Analog Drums. The next time when I'm looking for my favorite kicks, as easy as dropping the sample right into Ableton, and everything will be same place without duplicating the samples. Latency check. Often than not, there are a couple of plugins that may cause high latency with your project. Easiest way to check the plugin latency, hovering the mouse over the plugin and taking a look at the left corner. Native plugins tends to have very low latency. For example, this EQ has 0 latency, but if you hover over to Fab Filter Pro L2, 65 milliseconds, which is huge. The Ableton's own limiter on a 2.9. It's extremely important to understand which plugins are adding latency in your project to avoid this very laggy feeling. Another very important thing is that if you are looking look ahead functions in your plugins, in this case I'm just using compressor, 10 milliseconds of look ahead, 10 milliseconds is added as latency over here. Another very cool workflow hack is actually saving all your Ableton projects on your places. What does that mean? That means that whenever I need a new element in the track that I'm looking for, let's say I want to create a new low end, click over here, tutorials. I have all my tutorials for 2020 right over here. I'm looking for driving low end. Here, the group of the low end. If I drop it, bam, we already have it loaded right over here. Taking notes. I found myself oftentimes have a lot of ideas but forget about them later on. So what you can do, use your arrangement channel, click this one. You will find an option, edit info text. This is basically a notepad inside the Ableton. Edit lead, cutoff envelope, reverb, and the same idea works with everything. For example, you can have an info text onto a channel if you are lazy or if you don't like to use arrangement channels. By the way, if you want to know which websites that are important for you as a producer, I have just a video about it. I will put it here so you can take a look.